Alright guys, Tactical here back again today. First thing you'll notice, my voice is kind of wrecked right now. I think the weekend finally caught up to me. My voice has really been struggling today. Much better sounding now than it did first thing this morning though, I'll tell you that for free. Second day of the ghetto setup here. You'll notice the camera's better than yesterday. Much more zoomed in. My housemate very kindly lent me his old webcam so we can use that, and hopefully the video is better quality than yesterday. Should continue improving as I work towards hopefully getting back the items I lost that help me record these videos on a day-to-day basis. But let's get over that. Want to get into today's content because some really spicy stuff to talk about here. Scump, Seth Abner, or Seth Scump Abner, whatever, going at the DaLLLas guys, and really interesting. Usually you don't see Scump too often on Twitter starting these kind of Twitter spats. You know, lately he's kind of been pretty down to earth on the matter, but clearly over these last couple of weeks, the Minnesota thing where he was, having a go at Crimsix, and then, even into yesterday, having won this weekend against and beating DaLLLas another couple of times this weekend, the situation clearly, Huntsman are the team to beat right now out of those two, and the way that Clayster responded to it is really interesting to see. We'll have to see how that rivalry develops over the coming season. Going to be a really interesting one, because in my opinion, in terms of trajectory, DaLLLas should be on the up over the course of the season, so, whether they'll be able to match Huntsman at some point and, maybe take some series off them, and maybe even become the better team towards the end of the season, it is not out of the question by any means. So like if you guys enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. Let's get into this then. So Season 2 arrives in Modern Warfare. Just wanted to say this is here on Charlie Intel. We have a CDL playlist which has been introduced into the game. Fight like the pros in this Call of Duty League rule set playlist. In this playlist, settings and available weapons, maps and modes have been altered so you can battle like the best of them. But guess what? This is just like an Infinite Warfare style mode where there's actually no ranked system. So, no playlist, it's just a normal playlist, CDL rules enabled, no ranked system going on here. This isn't a standard we should accept. Keep expressing your interest in a true ranked system, says Joe DeLuca of all people. I remember covering ages ago now, Merk said on Twitter that we're never going to see ranked at all, and I wasn't sure at the time whether that was kind of him just saying that sarcastically, or whether he truly believed it. And here we go once again talking about how ranked system, not yet in the game. Really disappointing to see. May talk about that more in depth. Wanted to mention this as well. A couple of people pointed this out to me, so thank you very much for doing that. There actually was a prize pool at this weekend's event, but there was no announcement of it anywhere. Anywhere on the CDL website, there was nothing that could be said about having this, $100,000 prize pool at the event, because it felt like being at the event, all they were really playing for was CDL points. There wasn't really, you couldn't really see from in the crowd's perspective that there wasn't even a trophy given out at the end, right? So, it's a difficult position to be in from a crowd, thinking, what really is the incentive here to win, given its kind of just position in a league. There's no trophy at the end of the day, but there was big money actually on the line. We didn't get that perception at the event, but 50,000 for first, 30,000 for second. So, kind of makes sense in line with what we would expect, but wanted to bring that to your guys' attention if you hadn't seen that already. So here we go then. This is the main story I wanted to talk about. Here we go from Scump. So firstly, he references this tweet ages ago from Hastro. You guys may remember this. There was a preseason power rankings which Jacob Hale did over at Deserto, and he put Chicago Huntsman at #1. This is a while ago now, before the patch hit with the slide cancelling changes and all of that kind of stuff, which effectively meant that Atlanta FaZe at that point hadn't been considered the best team in the world. Let me just get that light back on. There we go. So yeah, they weren't yet considered #1. So Chicago Huntsman, he put Jacob Hale as #1, and Hastro and DaLLLas Empire at the time were kind of considered #1 by most people. Of course, Jacob on the long run has proven to have got those two the correct way round. But as Hastro says here, so Deserto says, which team is looking the strongest? Hastro then came out and says this just shows how biased Deserto is to their ownership group, who also has an ownership interest in the Chicago franchise. We've been railing them in every scrim. So, intriguing that he comes out and says, I talked about this in depth at the time. Pretty outrageous thing for him to say, given that I don't think Hector even owns any portion of Deserto anymore like he used to. And even if he does, that's far from their intention there. Their intention is just to get clicks, of course, which is obviously what you're meant to do nowadays. So Scump then says, DaLLLas started this feud. Now the DaLLLas, so of course, L being, W versus L is a loss. So if you put an L, a capital in something, it's, you're taking the mick, right? Started this feud and now is backpedaling. Don't dish it if you don't want a negative response after. Victim role is weird. Now I think what he's referring to here, before we go on to this long conversation between Clayster and Scump, is another tweet that Clayster did just a little bit earlier. So we'll look through this tweet. So thanks to Martin for pointing this out to me here. Clayster says this: "Goddamn, reading my mentions got me feeling like we, trashed the bed or something. 3 and 4 with 3 losses to Chicago and 1 to FaZe. All while 2 of our players are playing their first Pro COD lands and learning Respawn. Progress takes time. This whole onliner take, which we talked about yesterday, Formal saying that, you know, DaLLLas are just onliners, is hilarious. If anyone has watched, which you haven't, we haven't been amazing in scrims since before the slide cancel patch. Everyone's referencing scrims that happened 2 months ago as dominating online when we've been far from it since the patch. Imagine your first COD tournament, you have a crowd chanting "Go back to Halo," and you've got to play Chicago twice. You know, I'd have not been in the best position either. Proud of how Anton Inda, so that's I guess Shotzi and Illy, handled the pressure with it being so close so soon. I'm excited to see the players they can become. Firstly, before we go on to Scump Street, I think that Clayster on the whole here is right on the money, right? Like, it's DaLLLas, of course, we were expecting them to be a super dominant team, but at the same time, you look at Illy and you look at Shotzi, these are their very first lands. We've seen what, you know, Dashy has been able to do, and Simp, especially last season, is kind of the guy that we've set our standards against, being like, well, if you don't drop a 1.2 at your first ever tournament, like, are you even any good at the game? So look, it's expected that Illy and Shotzi, you know, moving into Call of Duty at this point, you know, professional level on the main stage, aren't necessarily going to have the best results. And the London crowd, it's not like they were very gracious, right, to the DaLLLas guys, which is expected, right? You're not meant to necessarily give a team a good time, but it is going to make things more difficult for them. As they say, they've got 4 losses, 3 to Chicago, 1 to FaZe. They beat all the other teams. They reverse swept London as well, who were looking like a pretty strong team at that event, with the crowd, you know, right behind them, of course. So look, DaLLLas have been a pretty good team so far, not as good as some of us were expecting, but as Clayster said, since the patch, they weren't as good online as they've appeared to be, and right now it's honestly Clayster and Crimsix that are kind of carrying the squad. Those other guys, Illy and Shotzi, and Hook as well, have had their moments, but by the end of the year, if anything, you expect those to be the guys that are leading the line, which is definitely something that we could expect to happen over the course of the season. Things don't happen overnight. That's why I think their trajectory is upwards for the DaLLLas Empire, just because of where people are expecting them to be, given right at the start of the season when they were dominating online. You know, that's understandable, but learning Respawn first COD Pro lands definitely makes a lot of sense. So then I think what Scump is going at here is he's looking at this tweet and saying, well, you know, Clayster was dishing all this trash talk early season, or at least the Empire guys were on the whole, and now it seems like Clayster's taking a back step to say, no, it's not really a big deal, we're only just getting started, whatever. So this is how it goes. Who are you talking about backpedaling? You're saying you're receiving negativity. You know for a fact it wouldn't be as bad without the trash talk beforehand. How is that backpedaling? What exactly did I trash talk? I stated facts, and I've really stayed out of it for the most part. Alec is like a brother to me, that's Arsties, and I'm friends with you. I've got no beef and nothing to say, and I'm getting dumpstered on the bird by the cult following, bird meaning Twitter. I agree it wasn't so much you, talking about Crimsix, but it trickles down to you, unfortunately. Backpedaling may have been the wrong word. With all the hype, confidence you're built online, it was inevitable that if you lost it, it would be bad. Context is important in situations such as this one, and you know the influence and power you have over your fans. We've had some setbacks, and not the performances versus your we would have wanted. Kudos to y'all, but it's not like me and Inda Kyla, so that's Hook, Illy, Shotzi, were coming at y'all's neck pre-season, and yeah, obviously missing out Crimsix here, because he kind of was. Yeah, the narrative your org built for this rivalry seems like your whole team talks trash when they do these kind of hype pieces and little jabs at us. Guilty by association, in this case James meaning Clayster, James Eubanks. Negativity comes with a position y'all took since day one. Interesting from Scump to come in and say this, usually doesn't accept it. Clearly Scump has been, you know, under the cosh a little bit with all this trash talk coming the way from DaLLLas Empire. And, you know, trash talk is good in the sense that it builds rivalries. Like, this rivalry's been super intense for the season. Crimsix knows what he's doing. The other guys have been, you know, maybe taking pot shots, and Hastro and that have made the content around the fact that it's, you know, Chicago versus DaLLLas, OpTic versus Envy as it was back in the past. The narrative was built for sure, but also stems from you and Porter, that's Crimsix. You know it's, you know how it is with those video pieces. They take a 45-minute interview and clip the 2 heater answers. Honestly, there's no real argument here. We've done no backpedaling, and I've given you all the credit. And that's pretty much where it finishes, which is fair play from both sides, to be honest. On this one, I think Clayster's pretty much on the money, but I do understand Scump being in the position of like, well, you know, you guys have been talking trash, we've beaten you 3 times now, it's time to lay the hammer down a little bit. What I'm a bit concerned about is that this Huntsman team throughout the course of the season, you know, we'll have to see how that team progresses, because let's not forget, they've got DaLLLas on the team, they've got Formal on the team. Those two did not have the best of things that happened in the last season on Black Ops 4 on the Luminosity Gaming team. It was apparent that supposedly Formal said that teaming with DaLLLas was the worst decision he had ever made. They've decided to do it again 6 months time, or 6 month time the league will basically be over, but you know, 3 months time Chicago start not having as good of results. You know, maybe there's some fallout that happens there. It's definitely plausible. Whereas on the side of DaLLLas Empire, if anything, you're looking at just an upward trajectory, which does get me you know, excited for the future of this rivalry, because right now, Chicago are dominating it. Formal says, Scump, you're back in your prime. Thanks, Formal, and that's the last gas I give you. Kind of funny, yeah, been so long since I've been gassed, I don't even know how to respond anymore, because he kind of doesn't gas Formal back in this instance. A few other things to go through then before we finish the video, but yeah, be really intrigued to hear your thoughts on this down in the comment section below. Some really interesting stuff going on right now, and I wonder which side of this rivalry you find yourselves falling on. Blast is scrimming for the next Challengers event. His team at the moment is Zaptius, Paulex, Sandy, and Venom, so pretty interesting team. Paulex a pretty well-known S&D star as well, so Blaz, of course, back in the scene here. And also we have this, so the next homestand, as Maven says to Scump yesterday, I honestly think it was just an oversight with the last-minute change from league matches to tourney hybrid. Personally, I think home teams should be responsible for it, have a medal, trophy, plaque, whatever, but make it with some local flavour, just my opinion. I agree with Maven on that front, so talking about how that there was no homestand, as far as I, no trophy at the homestand at this London event would be nice to have, of course, at future events to make it feel more like a tournament. I understand, as Maven was saying, that it probably makes more sense for the home team to do that and kind of give out what you want rather than just having a standard trophy. But you can get a decent looking trophy for a couple £100. And Bob Morris Jr., so he's one of the guys working over at Seattle, to my understanding, Director of Business Operations at Seattle Surge. Drop him a follow, already in the works for the Seattle Surge homestand. So pretty cool to see that that is going to be a thing going forwards as well into the future. Just wanted to finish off with this then as well, because I thought this was pretty funny from Grant Hines. This is just a complete opposite perspective to what we think of in the Call of Duty scene. Really disappointed by the amount of teabagging. So teabagging is when you go over someone's body and like crouch up and down on them just to show you're disrespecting them to some degree, but it's all friendly banter that's going on the Overwatch League this weekend. You'd never see that behaviour in any other established sport. If esports wants to be taken seriously, decorum and professionalism should be a responsibility of the players, especially when games like Play Overwatch provide emotes like, I don't agree with this take, to be honest with you. It helps spice up the rivalries and keep things interesting. I don't really think anyone particularly is getting offended by someone teabagging someone else. So, I don't necessarily agree with this take. Maybe if you guys are for the Overwatch League, you would have a different opinion. But I think we do it a little bit different here at Call of Duty. So just to finish off with this then, actually, we already went through it. So yeah, like if you guys enjoyed the video, I would greatly appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new as always. Leave your thoughts down below. Hopefully my voice will be a little bit better for tomorrow. Thanks for watching as always. I'll see you next time.